This day in sports history. It's December 14th, and on this day we had a miracle in Minnesota. Points rolling on the scoreboard like a slot machine in Vegas. And we pay a little homage to a couple of three-point shooters, one you know very well, the other you probably have never heard of, who both set marks on this night. Those stories and a non-sports fun fact about George Burns and Harpo Marx at the end, coming your way right after this.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. Sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Sterlingsoap.com.
We're a couple of weeks away from celebrating the 50th anniversary of the original Hail Mary. That, of course, was a Dallas Cowboys win on a last-second pass against Minnesota at the old Metropolitan Stadium. Well, on this day in 1980, the Vikings pulled off their own version of the Hail Mary in what became known as the Miracle at the Met. This was a Week 15 matchup between the Vikings and the Cleveland Browns. After a Cleo Miller one-yard plunge at the start of the fourth quarter, the Browns led by 14. A few minutes later, Ted Brown reeled in a 7-yard touchdown pass from Tommy Kramer to close the gap to 23-15. But the PAT was missed, and it was an 8-point deficit for the Vikings. With a little over 5 minutes to play in this one, Minnesota head coach Bud Grant opted not to attempt the onside kick after that score. Well, after Cleveland ran about 3 minutes off the clock and they were moving methodically down the field, it looked like that would be a poor decision and the Browns would win this game. But then, the miraculous things began to happen.
Here in Viking territory.
Look right here.
Throw on second base. It's intercepted. Oh, my. Bobby Bryant has the interception, and that is his 50th interception in his 12-year career.
5 plays later, the Vikings found the end zone.
Third down 3. Throws it there, touchdown. For Ahmad Rashad, that is his first touchdown in 10 ball games.
So, yeah, that touchdown catch ended a long drought for Ahmad, but it would not be his last of the day. Now, the 2-point conversion was not a thing in the NFL yet. That would not come into effect for another 14 years in the 1994 season. So the Vikes had to kick the extra point, and they trailed by 1 with 1:35 left in the game. Minnesota did attempt the onside kick after that one, but it was recovered by the Browns. The Vikings used their timeouts, and the defense held Cleveland to a 3-and-out to force a punt, and they got the ball back. But they had to go 80 yards, and they only had 14 seconds on the clock to do it, and they didn't have any timeouts left. So on the first play, they ran the old hook and lateral to get to the Browns' 46, using 9 seconds on the clock to do it. And that set up the dramatic final play. Here's the voice of the Vikings, Ray Scott, calling the action on WCCO that day.
5 seconds left, first down, Cleveland 46. 3 wide receivers right, Kramer back to pass. He's going deep, down the right side, and it is fought for, and it is touchdown! Rashad! Absolutely one of the great dramatic finishes of any football game, anywhere. The Vikings go to the playoffs.
That gave the Vikings the NFC Central Division title. Unlike the '75 Cowboys, though, They were not able to turn their Hail Mary into a run through the playoffs to the Super Bowl. They lost the next week at Houston and then lost in the first round of the playoffs on the road at Philly. On this day in 2023, it was a crazy turnaround game of sorts for the Las Vegas Raiders. This was a Week 15 game as well between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. It had been a rough couple of weeks for the Raiders. They'd lost 3 straight, and the week before they had been beaten 3-0 by Minnesota on a fourth-quarter field goal. The Chargers were also having their struggles, having lost 4 of their previous 5 games. Raiders running back Zamir White was handling the rushing load in this one with Josh Jacobs out, and he capped off a 12-play drive with a 1-yard run to get the scoring started. But that was not even close to foretelling what was on the way. The Chargers coughed up the football on their first drive, and the Raiders pounced. QB Aiden O'Connell hooked up with Trey Tucker for a 30-yard strike. Chargers running backs had apparently greased their hands before the game because they put it on the turf again. O'Connell threw another 3 touchdown passes in the first half, and the Raiders scored 42 points in the first 30 minutes. And remember, they had been held scoreless just the week before. Their 42 points in the first half is the second most ever scored in a half of football, and it's second only to New England's 45 they scored back in 2009. But the Raiders were not quite done. John Jenkins had a 44-yard scoop and score to make it 56-7, and then 2 plays later, this happened.
The second down and 13. Oh, baby. Unbelievable. Jack Jones. They do it again.
LA had 5 turnovers, and the Raiders took advantage of every one of them. That Jack Jones pick 6 and the PAT were the final points they scored. The 63 points they put on the scoreboard are the most points ever scored by an NFL team that had been shut out the week before. Things got worse for Chargers head coach Brandon Staley, though. He was fired the next day. The Southern Conference is a mid-major that's one of the oldest conferences in the country. Only the Big Ten and the SWAC are older. Well, the Southern Conference also has an interesting history with the three-point shot in basketball. A few weeks back, I talked about Western Carolina's Ronnie Carr hitting the first ever three-pointer in NCAA history in 1980. Well, on this day, Marshall's Keith Veney set an NCAA record for three-pointers made in a game. At that point, the Thundering Herd played in the Southern Conference, and on this night, Marshall was playing at home against Morehead State. Veney hit 15 threes that night to break the previous single-game record of 14 set back in 1989, and that was equaled in 94. Veney's record of 15 made threes stood alone for nearly 22 years until it was equaled on back-to-back nights in 2018. The last guy to hit 15 in a game is Furman's Jordan Lyons on November 15, 2018. Furman is also a member of the Southern Conference. You know who else played in the Southern Conference? None other than the best three-point shooter of all time, Davidson's Steph Curry. And on this day in 2021, Curry became the all-time leading three-point shooter in the NBA. In a sold-out Madison Square Garden, the Golden State Warriors were playing the New York Knicks that night, with Curry needing just 1 to tie and 2 to break Ray Allen's record of 2,973 three-pointers made. With 7:34 left in the first quarter, Curry buried his second to claim the record.
Again, here's Curry for the record. It's good! And there it is! Stephen Curry! The all-time three-point king of the NBA!
Amazingly, it took 511 less games for Curry to set the record than it took Allen. And of course, he continues to add to it. Currently, he has 4,129 three-pointers heading into tonight's game against Portland. Both Ray Allen and Reggie Miller, who Allen passed in 2011 to become the all-time leader, were at the Garden to celebrate the moment. Miller was the analyst on the television broadcast for the game. In addition to his career mark, Steph Curry also holds the mark for most three-pointers made in a season, in a month, and in a week. However, he does not hold the mark for most in a game or a quarter. Those records are held by his former teammate and current Dallas Maverick, Klay Thompson. But on this day in 2021, Steph Curry became the undisputed three-point king of the NBA. Interestingly, the guy who was selected 4 spots in front of him in the 2009 NBA draft, James Harden, is now second on the all-time three-pointers made list. So the 2025 Heisman Trophy winner was announced last night. Congrats to Indiana's Fernando Mendoza becoming the first Heisman winner in Hoosiers history. Well, on this night in 2019, LSU quarterback Joe Burrow won the Heisman Trophy with the highest percentage of first-place votes. Of the 927 total voters, Burrow received 821 first-place votes for a 95.5 percentage, just a little bit more than Oregon's Marcus Mariota's 95.2 in 2014. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. To protest their favorite golf club's policy for members to always wear shirts, comedians George Burns and Harpo Marx played a round of golf in their underwear. When asked about it, Burns replied, "They didn't say anything about wearing pants." That's all I've got for you today. I'll have more tomorrow on this day in sports history. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.